Hey, Erin, thank you so much for being here today. We're super excited to have you. I would love if you could introduce yourself.
Great. Thanks for having me, Courtney. And Erin Easton, and I'm a mindfulness coach in Montrose, Colorado, small town on the western slope, and got into mindfulness coaching from a back injury that actually is still kind of lingering on and continues, but use meditation and mindfulness to help me with that and build a healthier relationship with my body and pain, and then just kind of grew from there. I saw it started to improve my relationships and my professional life and my mental well-being, my relationship with my emotions. And I was a teacher at the time of, I taught languages. So I taught French and Spanish and ESL. And was doing my master's, and then kind of switched my research into the use of meditation and mindfulness in language acquisition, and started my career in mindfulness coaching there. So using it in schools in my language classes, and then designed a course on brain science and mindfulness, and then decided I liked that a lot more than teaching. So started my own business and kind of moved to doing that full time. And the book kind of came out of that process and designing the practice for myself and all the research that I had done in my master's, but then also on my own of how do you really develop a practice that fits your lifestyle and works for you and actually gives results. So,
Love that. I would love if you could tell us what your books are about.
yeah, so my first one is Living from the Heart, Healing Ourselves So We Can Heal the World. And it really does, I think I had mentioned this before, that I have read so many books on like spirituality, on religion, on healing, on because I was searching, I was like trying to heal myself. I had this incredible experience of pain from my back and the nerve damage in my leg. And so I was like hungry for knowledge, and I was kind of putting the pieces together and then using all of that information and applying it to what I was doing in my process of healing and how I was becoming more centered. And um working through that process was leading me more to like my authentic truth and living from the heart. And what does that really mean for me to live my truth and know my values, and then seeing how that was influencing my life and helping me to just like thrive. And it's like when you get into the flow state, and things just kind of start happening. And so the book, I was like, well, people need to know this and how this works. So it takes a lot of the teachings and a lot of the research that I did and a lot of the reading that I've done, but it simplifies it all down, makes it really simple, really easy to follow, and gives a practical kind of path towards building your own mindfulness practice that helps you live from the heart. And
Love that. What inspired you to write your books?
I, because I was such a seeker and I was having a hard time finding a book that was just like here's straightforward, simple, like there's so much great knowledge out there, right? Which I found a lot, and I loved so many of the teachers that I encountered and worked with. But I really wanted something that like tied it all together and made a very simple, easy to follow path. And because it helped me so much and I saw it helping my clients so much, I wanted to make it accessible that people could have something to refer to at home and use the book to build their own practice and apply it to you know, their belief sets, their religion, if they have a different one, to their lifestyle, and make it work for them so that, we can kind of start healing together and all experience the joy of living from the heart.
Love that. When you were writing your books, who were you thinking of when it comes to who they are for?
Yeah. Well, I know we're not supposed to say this, but really anybody. Um, I work mostly with clients between the age of 30 and like 70. And they're people who are inspired and kind of motivated towards growth, towards like really living with purpose. Um, Oftentimes it's people who, have had to experience going through healing and are looking for better ways to relate to spirituality, to find purpose in life, to find meaning in life. But really, I know not everybody is motivated in that way, but it's like it could really help all of us if we kind of turn more heart focused. But it does tend to be, I attract a lot of seekers, I guess, and people looking for purpose and meaning in life.
Love that. How long have you been writing and what made you really start?
That was funny. I was thinking about that the other day, and I was actually in middle school, and it was a little notebook that I brought. We were on a trip to New Zealand, a family trip. We lived over there for about 4 months, and we had a lot of time in our little camper trailer. And I started writing my first book then, and of course it was ridiculous and silly. I like found it the other day and was embarrassed by it. I think it was a love story, a romance. But I always liked writing. I think that reminded me, like, I had wanted to be a writer back then, and I always journaled. As I was kind of starting, I was writing articles for magazines, and then my master's program actually really gave me the confidence, like I could write a whole book of value because it kind of walked me through that research process of how to put it into like written format that's shareable. And yeah.
Love that. What's your schedule like when you are writing a book?
Well, it depends. So my first one was very much like you could say the process started in the master's, right? Because I used a lot of that master's research in it. So it took a long time. Was about 2 years of researching. So researching, interviewing, reading. And then when I started doing my mindfulness coaching, right, then I had the process of like investigating, creating the process. So how do you teach this to other people? What does the coaching look like? And in creating the courses for my coaching, that was almost writing the content for me for the book. So it was like each course that I did was another section in the book. And so this was kind of a unique process with this one. So I'd say that was about 2 years of research, and then building the business was about 2 years of course design. And then it was I'd say about a year of now putting it into book format. So taking that research, organizing it, writing it out. I would kind of take things that I'd written elsewhere or in articles and compile them together. But this second book is a little bit different, right? Because I've done most of the research and I'm kind of used that process. I've walked through the process already. I designed a course on mindfully making peace with the body and pain. So I had that information, and then it takes a lot more of my experience in coaching and working with people. So part of the writing process is just being really aware and involved in observing in the coaching process and learning, like I learn a lot from the people I coach and their journey. And so that's giving me the content for it. And then when I sit down and write, it's really just putting that into words.
Love that. What do you need in your writing space to help you stay focused?
I need a lot of space in my day, I find. Um, I find that in any of my creative processes. I also like to paint and learning piano. But if I clutter my day and I have scheduled things all the time in the day, I can't sit down and write. It's like it just doesn't come. But if I have like space in my day, I have a few hours at a time where there's just nothing. And it's like I didn't even really schedule writing, but it'll be like, oh, I have this time and I have this space. And now I can, like, with ease and no pressure, sit down and write. So I really need to, it's like creating a lifestyle and a schedule that leaves room for option. And then in that option, I'll choose writing and it'll feel natural to write.
Love that. What is your favorite writing snack or drink?
Tea. I'm a big tea drinker. Um, yeah, any kind of herbal tea. I stay away from caffeine. So, yeah, love drinking tea.
Love it. What type of books do you personally read?
Well, I go back and forth. I have a balance of like, I love educational books geared towards meditation, Buddhism, growth, spirituality. But then I like to balance them out with fun books. I love historical fiction. Um, I get a lot of joy out of that. I feel like I'm learning. It's like how I would have liked to learn history in school. Or like, you don't care about the dates and the names and the facts. It's like it's a story, it's a narrative about our past. And I love books that, even if there's invented sides, they kind of walk me through that narrative and I'm learning history through people and through a story.
Love that. Are there any books or authors that inspired you to become a writer?
Um, Thich Nhat Hanh is, I mean, he's a prolific writer. He has hundreds of books. And I think reading his teachings, one of his books is why I started meditation and mindfulness. As a counselor gave me um, reconciliation, healing our inner child. And it was like he writes so simply and it's so accessible and it makes you feel like you really have access to these teachings within yourself, and being able to receive that from a book and then seeing that his book literally shifted my entire life, like took me on a whole new path. It just inspired me a lot that books are so powerful and how much they serve us and how much impact they can make on one life. But then if it had that impact on my life, like it touches so many people with his teachings and his words.
Love that. What type of books did you grow up reading? Did you have an all-time favorite?
I got a lot of books from my mom. So she would pass them to me. I ones that stick out, I think, were my sister's keeper and the Poisonwood Bible. But again, a lot of them were books that had, some kind of teaching method, like message, or were historical fiction, which she really liked historical fiction. And The Red Tent comes to mind too. These titles kind of stick. I think about them a lot even now. Like they made a big impact on me when I was younger. And then Lord of the Rings. I remember I would stay up all night. My brother got so mad at me. We were staying in a hotel room and I had the light on so that I could read, and I couldn't put the books down. And so I finally went into he was getting so mad at me that I had to turn the light off. I went into the bathroom and read in the bathtub, so that I could keep reading the books. I just loved the Lord of the Rings series.
Love that. On the other side of that, now as an adult, what are your favorite series or authors that if they come out with something, you're going to automatically grab it?
Kristen Hanna has been very, I love, for like my kind of light reading. Her historical fiction books are great. I love them. And then, was Thich Nhat Hanh. I've read so many of his books. He has now passed. But there's so many more that I could um, read from him. But yeah.
Love that. What would you tell someone just starting out with reading again?
Yeah, well, that's a good one. My boyfriend doesn't read at all, and he says he can't read because he falls asleep and he can't stay engaged in reading. And so, like, if he was starting out again and he was going to get involved in books, it'd be like, find something that just pulls you in and is your interest and makes you hungry for the words. Like, whether it's something you want to learn or whether it's a story that just resonates with you or reflects your life or teaches you something, like, make sure it's one that's going to pull you in and hold your interest.
Love that. On the other side of that, what would you tell someone just starting to write their own book?
Same kind of thing. Make sure it resonates with you. It's going to be a long, drawn out, hard process if you aren't totally into the subject. So, like for me, I didn't start out like, oh, I want to be an author. It was like, I love this topic so much. I'm so passionate about these teachings and sharing them with the world that, like, that pushes me forward to write. So if you're going to write a book, like, what observe in your life, be aware. What are the things that you just automatically feel really passionate about or that you just love diving into? And even if it's fiction, like, what are the stories? Like, your mind just naturally creates these stories or sees the world in this way, and let it just kind of speak through you from a passion that you already have or from a story that's already coming to life in you. And I just read a article in about an author in Crestabute who, I can't, anyway, she wrote a book about one of our towns here that was actually covered over by a reservoir. So they had to dam the lake and cover it over. And she said that this girl's story, of this girl who lived in this town, was like alive and living in her for like 20 years before she finally wrote it. But she had, like, her mind kept going back there and she was really passionate about this story, and this girl was already kind of living in her mental space in these years. And then when she finally came to write it, it was like the story was already alive and that girl was already alive. So find something that you're already passionate about and that is already coming to life within you. And then when it comes to writing, it's really just putting that down into format.
Love it. What's one thing that people are generally surprised to find out about you?
Hmm. I I don't know. I guess now would probably because I, my main kind of persona that I live with is this very mindful, and people can kind of assume that I'm kind of serious in that. But I guess I have this very kind of playful, goofy side, and people normally like, oh, I didn't expect that from like reading some of your teachings or the like mindfulness coach side of you.
Love that. Is there anything you would like to say or add?
Um, no, except for that, you know, in kind of reading books, and when you're looking for books to read or even looking for books to write, of just like in my practice and what I teach, of like knowing your intention and knowing your why, your passions, what is important to you, that those kind of guide where you're going to direct your attention. And like they say, of in mindfulness is where we put our attention grows our reality and our experience. So if you're placing your attention and reaching out to information or books or writing them with an energy that's more negative, right, or creates agitation in you or division or anger, that's the experience that you're going to have in life. So when you're looking out into like, what books am I going to read, or if I wrote a book, what book would I want to write, of holding that intention of what do I want to create more of in the world? What do I want to experience more of? And put your focus there. And that grows that energy. And where our focus goes, right there, our reality follows. So create the reality you want to have by what you're consuming in words, in information, in conversations, and then help generate more of that by that would be what you put out into the world.
Love that. Where's the best place for readers to find your books? I know some readers love signed copies. Is that an option? And the best place to connect with you?
So my books are on Kindle and Amazon, on pretty much any online book purchasing site. You can also find them on my website. There's a link to purchase it on my website, newleafmindfulness.com. And if you do want a signed copy, reach out to me and I can sign that and send it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We're so grateful we got to interview you. We'll be sure to drop those links in the show notes so everyone can find you. Thank you again.
Great. Thanks so much.